the intake noise of this is fantastic. This sounds significantly better than the last version of the 86. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the all-new 2022 Toyota 86. First and foremost, so a huge shout out and thank you to the Brent Brown Toyota here in Utah for giving me some time with the 86. Check out the inventory in the description down below, and if you happen to stop by here, make sure to ask for Rick. Let's get into the video. Under the hood, we have a naturally aspirated 2.4-liter flat four cylinder that goes through a 6-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 21 around town and then 31 on the highway, with power outputs being 228 horsepower and then 184 pound-feet of torque. Now let's go over the front end of the 86. So first off, I think this thing looks so sinister in black. Now let's go over the headlights first and foremost. So you guys can see we've got the projector bulbs here with the LED accent light that wraps around, and again, it just looks really good how it all flows. I love the accent here off to the side. Got the GR badge right there with the front grille. Obviously got the Toyota logo there in the center, and you guys can kind of see the fitment on all of that. And yeah, other than that, this car looks fantastic from a front end perspective, and I wasn't so sure based on pictures and video if this looked good, especially compared to the previous generation. I can now confidently say it looks better than the previous generation in person. Now coming around the side here, we've got two 15mm tires wrapped around 17-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear as well. And then you guys can see the design here with the wheel itself. Really cool how you've got the silver here on the top and then the black down below that. And again, it kind of just lends to this having kind of a sportier type appearance with the wheel itself. And the great thing about 17-inch wheels and 215mm tires is they're very inexpensive to replace if anything happens. I love the venting here off to the side. And then here's your full side view of the car, which, I mean, the front looks fantastic, but the side here, I think this might be the best angle because you can see the body lines and everything, and the hips in the back too. It just looks great. So here's our key fob for the 86. This is a pretty funny key fob. So it's a Subaru key fob, but you know, obviously this is for the Toyota, so they had to like make it work. And instead of putting a Toyota logo on the back or anything, because you know, that would require changing the key fob a lot, they just took the unlock button and put a Toyota logo in it. Pretty creative, and yeah, definitely all about that. Anyways, hold that down, and then this will pop open the trunk area. And actually popping here into the trunk area, you guys can see storage space is actually really good for this being a really small sports car. The opening is on the smaller side of things, but it's pretty good, especially compared to some other sports cars in this segment. You got the 86 here on the rubber floor covering, and then of course we got to have the Toyota First Aid Kit, which is in like every single Toyota. And other than that, boom. Now let's finish things off here with the rear of the car. So first off, I love how this kind of pops up, kind of like a ducktail similar to the Supra. And then I love the new taillights actually. When you see up close, you guys can see kind of the accenting with them. Again, got the rest of the badges here. And then you've got the parking sensors there on the rear with the dual exhaust tips at the bottom. Now the overall back, everything combined, it doesn't look quite as pretty as the previous generation, but it still looks really good, really angular, and you know, it kind of has this muscular appearance to it. Now here's the door panel at the front. You guys can see here with the padding and then the stitching all throughout. And then you've got your adjustments there for the mirrors, and then the windows are automatic down, which is definitely a nice feature. And then before we go over the front seat, let's go over the back seat. So you guys can see it does have back seats. You guys can also see that you can't really have legs if you want to use these back seats, so I'd recommend using that for just storage, or if you really hate your passengers, throw them back there. But yeah, great storage space. And we got to clip that so we can get it back a little bit more, so you guys can see the front seats a little bit better. Really nicely bolstered. So this is kind of like the base model interior, but you can see the design here on the seats looks great. It's got really nice bolstering, got all your adjustments here on the side of the seat. Pedals down below, and that's to open up the trunk. And yeah, there's one more look before we pop in. So here is our steering wheel in the 86. Really nice leather all around the steering wheel. You guys can see the contrasted stitching there on the center portion, and then you've got the GR badge. Paddle shifters here in the back for that automatic transmission. We've got our volume controls right here. It does have adaptive cruise control, which is definitely a nice feature. You can see the stock there in the back. Windshield wiper stock. We have our turn signal light stock, and yeah, there is the steering wheel. So here's the center gauge cluster. I love the startup animation. You guys saw that, it was pretty cool. But yeah, really nice center gauge cluster here. You can scroll through a couple different menus there on the side. Give you different bits of information. I love how the RPMs are front and center, and it has this cool, aggressive, sporty type appearance. And I'm definitely a fan with how this looks. It definitely feels a lot nicer compared to the previous version. So So here's our center infotainment system. First off, we pop it into reverse. We've got a backup camera with trajectory lines that do turn with the steering wheel. Definitely solid with that, and resolution's pretty good. Now going on from that to the rest of the infotainment system, first off, I love how you have these shortcut buttons here on the side. So for example, if I want to go to apps, you can just press that, and response time with the shortcut buttons is great. And then as for the screen itself, it also has a really solid response time as well. It's easy to use. So overall, I think they did a great job with the infotainment system, and I think the integration is also very nice. We've got our climate controls down here. This does have a dual zone climate system. I love the GR on the stop start button. We've got this for some more climate control action. And then notice it says mode on it. For that, it's also for the climate controls, which I think is funny that it just, I don't know, it looks cool and it makes you feel like you're doing something significant even though you're just changing climate control stuff. Got the shifter for that 6-speed automatic transmission. We'll talk about this later when we drive it. It's funny how they kind of make it look like it's almost like a manual with the leather covering and all that fun stuff. Stability control here. We got our sport and our snow mode, which you can go into. And by the way, when you go into snow mode and sport mode, look how it changes the gauge cluster a little bit. And then notice that you have your track mode for the stability control. And then we've got a cup holder right here. We've got the center console, which it's interesting how that all opens. And then you guys can see here with the dash, and then if you're wondering here, decent amount of storage space with the glove box. And then finishing things up, pretty normal here with the roof. In terms of headroom, it's pretty decent. You could be a relatively tall person. I'm 6 foot and I can fit in here relatively comfortably, so that's solid. Now here is the window sticker for the 86. So first off, you guys can see the standard equipment that comes with this, and then optional equipment, pretty much everything standard. Anyways, there is your total MSRP before any type of market adjustment, $30,569. And let's take it out and see how it drives. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off. There's visibility of the hood, both of the mirrors, throughout the rest of the rear, and let's set off. So we are starting off here in the all-new 86, and the size of this car is just absolutely perfect. It's just one of those vehicles where you get into it and you're like, man, this is just such a good size. So if you guys are wondering, I put it in the sport mode and then also into the track mode. So we have the cool gauge cluster when you're in the track mode, as you guys can see. Definitely unique, and it adds to the aggression of the car. But setting off, first off, love the steering feel of this car. Definitely super direct. I love the steering wheel size as well. It's just perfect. It just has this nice nimble type feel to it because of the steering and because of all that. And the other thing that I want to mention is the suspension is actually pretty compliant. This is not a luxury car by any stretch of the imagination, but you could daily drive this very comfortably, actually. Even in this track mode, it's pretty good. I'm going to pop it in the manual mode, see how these shifts are. Love the sound of the engine. The intake noise is great. Obviously, the manual transmission is the preferred transmission with this type of car. That being said, though, obviously, if you don't know how to drive manual, the automatic's actually pretty decent. It's, you know, relatively responsive with the shifts. Especially on upshifts, it just kind of, it's pretty responsive with them. I mean, I just drove a 911 before this that has the PDK, and you know, this doesn't, like, going from that to this doesn't feel bad at all. So that goes to show that the transmission's really good. We'll kind of see, I love the handling with this. The steering's amazing. Sounds so good. Woo, gotta love that sound. So starting back up over here, didn't want to have to wait for a train. The intake noise of this is fantastic. This sounds significantly better than the last version of the 86, from what I can remember. We'll see again how the handling is around the roundabout here. Steering's really good. Yeah, it's so nimble. And it feels so much torquier too. Like, I guess the one thing that I will say about this car that I definitely didn't feel with the previous version is with this car, I feel like it's enough power. Like it doesn't feel crazy. Like it's not gonna throw you in your seat or anything like that. It's not that kind of power. That being said though, I mean, downshift, and it's got, the torque seems so much better. Like it's actually got mid-range torque, whereas before you had to really wring it out. This actually feels like it's got torque all the way through the power band, which is definitely a huge plus. I wanted to get to a complete stop here so I can do another acceleration. Yeah, feels good. Yeah, this is really good. So they have fundamentally changed this in a positive setting. So I guess we'll sum things up here at the new 86. First off, exterior wise, I think it's a really good looking car. I know some people were a little bit iffy about the styling. In person, it looks a lot better. Interior wise, I mean, it's just like it really feels super similar to what it was before. The gauge cluster is definitely a huge improvement. It definitely adds to the you know, sporty theme of the car, having this really cool looking gauge cluster, so that's a huge positive. And then driving wise, the car's still super nimble. The steering's fantastic, the suspension's great. It's such a fun car. The power band is so much better. It actually has power now. Yeah, and then about the automatic transmission, obviously, you know, I'll just be honest, right? The manual transmission is the route to go. That being said, the automatic feels a lot better than it used to. The automatic before, in my opinion, was unusable. That's just my personal opinion. This is usable. So like the manual is still the route to go, but this is actually a usable automatic transmission. So they've improved it a massive amount. Now let's get some things up for our video on this 2022 Toyota 86. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Brent Brown Toyota here in Utah for giving me some time with this 86. Check out their inventory in the description down below. And if you happen to stop by, ask for Rick. I'll see you.